Welcome to the Get Over Yourself podcast. This is author and athlete Brad Kearns discovering ways to be healthy, fit, and happy in hectic, high-stress modern life. So let's slow down and take a deep breath, take a cold plunge, and expertly balance that competitive intensity with an appreciation of the journey. That's the theme of the show. Here we go. The Get Over Yourself podcast is brought to you by Almost Heaven, beautiful compact home use sauna kits, ancestral supplements, grass-fed organ meats in a capsule, DNA Fit, genetic testing for custom diet and exercise recommendations, Integro Health, high-potency liquid probiotic called Flourish, Organifi, organic powdered superfoods, delicious green, gold, and red powders, Wild Idea Buffalo, sustainable, grass-fed, beyond organic, and check out the bradkearns.com/shop page. That's my personal selection of favorite products for health, fitness, and peak performance. And here we go with the show. Only work with people you can envision that you can work with forever. Oh man, how about that? I wish I could reflect on that over the past 30 or plus years. Why would 5 different shoe stores come to the same mall and theoretically compete against each other and lessen the sales of any potential individual store? Why not build a shoe store 5 miles down the road and be the western edge of town shoe store where everybody can go there? And the reason is this theory of abundance, where people go to the mall because they associate the mall with a place where they can buy shoes, and you get this spill-off benefit of being one of the shoe stores at the mall, and all the consumers are going there, and maybe one store doesn't have what they initially wanted, so they go down to the next store, and everybody wins in a sense. Okay, so pursuing my passions, loving my work, writing books for the sake of writing books. And I've written about 21 books right now. Some of them you've never heard of and no one has ever read, a few of them. Some of them were read by very few people, but I was totally committed to the process and enjoyed it so much and felt like it was my calling and my destiny. So I have always written because I've had a story to tell and felt compelled to sit down and type it out and make a contribution to the planet in that manner. This is Brad. I want to tell you about my life-changing acquisition of a personal home-use sauna. I have a 6x6 barrel sauna in my backyard, ready-made heat therapy, a fabulous unit from Almost Heaven. Check out their website. You can very affordably order your own sauna for installation in your backyard or garage and have a sauna experience, the fabulous health benefits accruing from exposure to hot temperatures. Get that sweat going. These are beautiful, traditional dry barrel saunas where you splash the water on the rocks, go in there and relax. It's become a social centerpiece at my home. People traveling from far and wide to come check out the barrel sauna, turn the dial or set the timer and walk in to 200 degrees in the Caribbean seas. For some reason, people like to come to the sauna more than my cold tub. Go figure. Check out almostheaven.com and their beautiful natural wood designs, and pretty soon, surprisingly affordable, you will be in the home sauna business. We're trying to be all that we can be on the Get Over Yourself podcast, covering those broad topics of diet, exercise, peak performance, personal growth, happiness, relationships, and longevity. Does that sound like my promo? I think I memorized all the adjectives. Are those adjectives? I don't know. I never really paid that much attention in school. But trying to broaden the conversation into all manner of things that support living a healthy, happy, balanced lifestyle, not just the diet and exercise focus that I've been known for, especially on the Primal Blueprint podcast, going for, I think, 6 years now, talking about this stuff to death. Always an important conversation, of course, but hey, if your relationships suck or you got issues in your life, Does it really matter that much if you're going to sleep on time and eating the cleanest diet? That's what I'm trying to do on this show, is broaden the conversation. And today, I thought I would talk about this dude, Warren Buffett, world record superstar investor guy. Why? Because this has been an area of my life that I would admit to having neglected for, let's say, the first 50 years. So the next 50 years, I have some new goals. Some of them include getting over the high jump bar, running the 400 meters in under 60 seconds, being all that I can be to my family, friends, relationships, and in my career contribution, but also taking a different perspective and a different value of economic consequences of what you're doing. I've always been really, really good at pursuing my passions and being in alignment, doing something that's meaningful, important, fulfilling work. But a lot of times you can take your eye off the ball and be completely consumed by passion and become a surf rat in Baja, bumming quarters to go buy some fish tacos on the street. And that's not a bad lifestyle. And a lot of people thumbs up for choosing out of the economic experience and the all that goes with it, all the responsibilities and hassles and headaches. But we're always trying to find a beautiful, wonderful balance where you can pursue goals like wealth and the freedom that comes with it, and also be true to your passions and be from a mindset of wanting to make a contribution to society rather than just take something away. As an economics student at UC Santa Barbara, that was my major. I'll never forget this wonderful concept they taught called the economic theory of abundance. And we had these concepts where if you go to the shopping mall, you know that there are usually 5 different shoe stores. Why would 5 different shoe stores come to the same mall and theoretically compete against each other and lessen the sales of any potential individual store? Why not build a shoe store 5 miles down the road and be the western edge of town shoe store where everybody can go there? And the reason is this theory of abundance, where people go to the mall because they associate the mall with a place where they can buy shoes, and you get this spill-off benefit of being one of the shoe stores at the mall, and all the consumers are going there, and maybe one store doesn't have what they initially wanted, so they go down to the next store, and everybody wins in a sense. Same deal with going to the busy corner on the boulevard, and you see 4 gas stations and 4 fast food restaurants all in proximity. So the Carl's Jr. that came in there right next to the big shots, McDonald's and Burger King, why would they pick that property rather than going 5 miles away? Because that's the fast food corner that everyone associates with toxic, disgusting garbage food. Oh, I just lost 3 potential sponsors of the show. Sorry about that. My sponsors are in alignment with my mission and my personal living choices. So too bad. Anyway, you get the economic theory of abundance. Same with a great quote I remember from one of my first sponsors when I was a professional triathlete. Yep, it was Power Bar. Sorry to say I was chowing that stuff down, but that was part of the scene back then. We were carbohydrate dependent athletes. We needed those snacks. And I remember Brian Maxwell, the founder of Power Bar, the late Brian Maxwell. Tragically, he died at a young age after selling his company to Nestle. So he had the wealth thing down, but obviously some other parts didn't fit in very well. Hopefully not too much work stress combined with running stress of being a great marathon runner, but he had a heart attack in his early 50s. Anyway, he was describing how when he first came out with Power Bar, he had apparently a 93% market share, if I remember the story right. Wow, amazing. But guess what? The energy bar category was basically created by him, and it was needing to grow and become a widespread consumer category in order to really thrive, and for a company like his to prosper at the next level to where he could sell for hundreds of millions to Nestle, right? So he said as he watched his company grow over time, let's say a decade or however long it took, he saw his market share decline steadily. So you have a graph up on the whiteboard in the office, and it says market share 93% exclamation point, and then it's going down, down, down over time to where I think he settled. And let's say PowerBar had 23% of the market share, still a massive thing. But of course, what happened to the market? It grew tenfold, hundredfold, whatever it grew. So he was ecstatic to see his market share decline because of the growth of the marketplace. So all new power bars, energy bars that came out floated the boat, especially of the kingpin in the category. And there's some good books about that where they're talking about, competition really, really helps the top couple of dogs. And then it gets kind of tough for everybody else that's trying to scrape up. Maybe that's the case for the podcast category too, because there's now over 500,000 podcasts published on iTunes. And the top ones, the favorite ones that we all listen to or we all know are top ranked, like the NPR podcast or the Serial podcast with the murder mysteries and things like that have millions of listeners. Probably a few years ago, they had 2.7 million listeners, and now they have 27 million listeners. So great to see all manner of growth in the podcast category. And I've tried to formulate and honor this insight, this theory throughout my life, rather than seeing a pie of a certain limited size. I realized that all quote unquote competition can help form a bigger pie. Because remember, the exchange of money in the economy, it's just an exchange resource, and it's renewable. So we can always grow, and see this economy growing and being healthier and healthier. For some people, don't get dissuaded as the election cycle comes into play now that the economy is fantastic. It's wonderful. The stock market's record numbers. But guess what? 50% of Americans have zero net worth. Zero. They don't own any stocks. They don't own anything. They're just afloat. So however great the economy is, we have to expand our lens to the big picture. If I can depart a little bit into the political realm there and realize that it's great for a lot of people, but doesn't float every single boat. So the rising tide floats most boats, especially the biggest boats. How about that for a new quote? Okay, so pursuing my passions, loving my work, writing books for the sake of writing books. And I've written about 21 books right now. Some of them you've never heard of and no one has ever read, few of them. Some of them were read by very few people, but I was totally committed to the process and enjoyed it so much and felt like it was my calling and my destiny. So I have always written because I've had a story to tell and felt compelled to sit down and type it out and make a contribution to the planet in that manner. Certain books that Mark Sisson and I have worked on together have been really successful, and that's wonderful. And I attribute the entire journey to the ability to have achieved that success. Same with Mark's journey of starting the blog at great personal expense with zero income coming in for several years. The MarksDailyApple was just his passion project, trying to spread the word and challenge flawed conventional wisdom in the health, diet, exercise space. So when you come from that high-minded motivation, that direction, oftentimes things work out. And I love listening to people share those success stories and having them be part of the conversation. Now, the guys at Google, Larry and Sergey, started out trying to become the world's most kick-ass search engine. And if you recall, or are not familiar with the story, the dot-com boom occurred in 99, 2000, 2001. Then a great crash occurred after that. And Google was on the sidelines refusing to go public because they didn't want to pollute their main focus and their journey of just building a better search engine. Remember the blank screen that still prevails today as the homepage, not taking any advertisements in comparison to the crazy stuff that you saw on yahoo.com, another big leader of the time, where there's all kinds of distractions and things that are trying to monetize every little cent that they can possibly get. And so the guys that at Google that continued to stay focused on their journey Big George included. Yo, man, listen to that show. That was good stuff. One of the earliest Google employees and a good friend of mine. We did a great show if you want to hear more about the origins of the company that has dispensed information to the world. That's their mission. Anyway, when they finally went public and everything worked out well for the people that built it, it was not motivated by profit incentive. Otherwise, they would have caved during the dot-com time to that quick money. So there's a lot of wonderful stories like that. Sometimes there's too many wonderful stories, right? You know what I'm talking about when people are saying, yeah, I just want to be of service to my community. And I'm so grateful to have hit $2 million in gross revenues this month, that kind of thing. Okay. Anyway, it is nice to know, especially for you young listeners out there who are trying to make your way and figure out all these confusing messages and pressures placed on the young human to have an economic impact to everything you do, especially your college major. Oh, philosophy. What are you going to do with that? Worst question of all time. What you're going to do with that is get an education and then go forth in the world and try to pursue your passions. But again, back to the theme of this show. Having an eye on the ball and understanding the importance or the right that you have to also have an economic impact to what you're doing and afford the freedom and the flexibility that creates. So buying shit is cool. I would say I'm somewhere in the middle of the consumerism spectrum where I really like going on eBay and finding used pair of my favorite running shoes or 5-finger toe shoes or cool golf shirts and things like that. Love buying stuff at a discount, hate buying stuff at full retail, but I'm still in the consumerism mindset because I'm goofing around buying junk on eBay, right? So I can't be calling myself minimalist like our carnivore friend, Dr. Paul Saladino, another great show. Listen to him. But he showed up at my mom's house in Los Angeles on his Odyssey, moving from the Pacific Northwest Seattle area to San Diego, and he had his entire worldly possessions in his pickup truck. And this is a prominent figure in the health scene. I'm sure he makes a good living as a physician. He's a psychiatrist and a functional medicine specialist, but he doesn't need all that crap. And he was heading down to a small apartment by the beach in San Diego, dreaming of catching the waves. Love that guy's style, man. So cool. And boy, the minimalist experience, downsizing, which I've done recently in the last few years, feels fantastic. Who needs all that crap? And then we head over to Warren Buffett. Certainly you've heard of him, one of the richest men in the world. And there was a couple cool articles featuring his strategies and his mindset and his approach to investing, to wealth, and to living his life that I got a lot of value out of. So I'm going to share these comments from these articles that were found on themedium.com. Great place for open source, great information from numerous columnists, and then the people that you like, you can read more on. And here we go. So there's this overview of some Warren Buffett tips, and then the writer provides his own 13-step analysis to get the most that you can out of the tips that were mentioned on the article. I'll put the link in the show notes. So coming out with the big one out of the gate, and this is what Warren Buffett's famous for, is how he says no to almost everything. So his company, one of the big investment firms of the planet, holding more wealth and more money in one spot than these giant high-rise buildings in New York filled with investor people. He's based in Omaha, Nebraska. He has a very small operation at headquarters, right? He owns a bunch of companies like the real estate firm Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. There's a total of 400,000 employees working for Buffett-owned companies. But at headquarters, there's a couple dozen people. They all fit in the same picture for a Christmas photo. Can you believe this? The Berkshire Hathaway investment giant has a Christmas photo of people standing there in the foyer. Oh, my goodness. Buffett has one house. He's lived there for 60 years. He spends less than $100,000 a year, according to the article, a guy making billions. Anyway, so he's a very minimalist living person, especially with his business mindset. This includes making very few investments. You might read the business sections and see these headline stories like Buffett buys stake in blank airlines or increases his stake in Apple Computer, but these are very thoughtful and informed decisions, and he's not out there trading like crazy. He's going in for the long haul. So he wants you to kill your busy work and have fewer meetings, less contact, do your thing, focus, quit just wasting time doing all this unnecessary communication and zone in a little bit. Stay focused on a highly prioritized to-do list. Only work with people you can envision that you can work with forever. Oh man, how about that? I wish I could reflect on that over the past 30 or plus years of associating with people where you knew it wasn't the greatest fit, but right then at that time, whatever it was, you were desperate. They were the best candidate around. You needed somebody quick. How about that? Only work with people that you can envision working with forever, keeping things super, super simple with low bureaucracy and focusing on just those few high quality investment opportunities in Buffett's example. But I'll bet you can reference different examples yourself, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're that mindset of wanting to jump on exciting new opportunities. Boy, focus in, do things right. Article claims that Buffett makes only a handful of investments per year. Meanwhile, day traders make a handful of investments per hour. The author of the article was Michael Simmons. I think I've mentioned him before on the show, putting out some good stuff. Here's a quote. Buffett's repeatedly told students that their investing results would improve if at the beginning of their careers they were handed a 20-hole punch card representing the total number of investments they could make in their lifetimes. Quote from Buffett, "We believe that a policy of portfolio concentration may well decrease risk if it raises, as it should, both the intensity with which an investor thinks about a business and the comfort level he must feel with its economic characteristics before buying into it." End quote. Okay, this is not an investing show, and what about the quote, though? Wouldn't that apply to everything, including your racing schedule for the year if you're an athlete, including a relationship that you decide to get into? Think long-term, go for it all the way, do things right, do things correctly, and don't flim-flam around doing half-assed involvements and engagements in life in general. Buffett's investments average 20 years in length. His activity is so low it's bordering on sloth. And that means that he's avoided the tech bandwagon and these things that we've seen, these rise and fall cycles. And speaking of tech, he has no smartphone, no computer, and doesn't monitor the stock market. Wow, trip out on that and think of the many, many analogies. I'm thinking of some in the relationship realm where you have an argument and we can all reference this or have had conversations with friends that we're supporting through things like this, where an argument occurs and the prospect of divorce, separation, breaking up is brought up just because you brought the car back late and there's a little dent on the side. What? It's just a small dent. Come on. But anyway, keeping that perspective and not monitoring the market every single day, every single second, and engaging in panic behavior and all those things that go with it. So that's the setup show, featuring a little rant from me at the start about my writing and about my journey and through my life and my trying to reprioritize my goals as I get older, emphasizing that desire to be financially responsible, economically successful. So I will pair this breather show with another one referencing the great article by Michael Simmons, where this is some tips how to apply the core model of Buffett that you just learned about with 13 steps. Good stuff coming up. Thanks for listening to this one. Da-dum-da-dum. Thank you for listening to the show. We would love your feedback at getoveryourselfpodcast@gmail.com. And we would also love if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a hassle. You have to go to desktop iTunes, click on the tab that says ratings and reviews, and then click to rate the show anywhere from 5 to 5 stars. And it really helps spread the word so more people can find the show and get over themselves because they need to. Thanks for doing it. Here's a wild idea. How about eating some good, clean, delicious, sustainably raised meat instead of the nasty, trashy feedlot animals? The vast majority of our meat consumption. No wonder there's vegetarians and vegans out there. But look, Wild Idea Buffalo is 100% grass-fed and finished meat. They roam on the open range as they have been for 130,000 years. This wonderful company is doing the best they can to give these animals a good life, harvest them in a humane manner. Check this out. 40 million cattle are slaughtered every year and pushed into the mainstream food supply. You've read books like Fast Food Nation with the disastrous health impact and consequences of this mess. And then, by contrast, 60,000 buffalo a year are harvested. Much more nutritional value, much better feeling deep inside when you order quality meat. Go to wildidea.com, order direct. They'll ship it to your house. It's delicious. You'll be a convert right away. There's nothing in the world like Buffalo Burger. Fantastic. Try it.